Welcome to East Meets West, and today is a different topic as we relate to leadership. And I have my special friend, also a Guyanese, living in the US for many years. However, her expertise is based on our topic today. So before we go to what we're going to discuss, I want to tell you a little bit about my friend Audrey Boyce. And Audrey is a registered nurse. She is a John Maxwell certified speaker, teacher, coach, and a certified leadership and wellness coach. And, her passion is about self-care and empowerment for nurses. So this today area we're discussing, especially for our nurses, but also I do believe that you can pick out some pointers also. How does this apply to you? And what you can also do as it relates to those areas. So she has this unique blend of leadership strategies and wellness principles. And Audrey offers a holistic approach that inspires and empowers nurses to prioritize their self-care. She is also an author. She has a book out that named the top 10 mistakes overwhelmed nurses make. And I'm sure she's going to share some takeaways or some, pointers from that book that we can also benefit from. But Audrey, a passion too is about helping people. And that is something that, yes, many of the John Maxwell coaches have in common, our heart to serve. And so today she is serving us by sharing her knowledge, and whatever you can benefit out from this here, do apply it to your life. And then also share this video to anyone that can benefit from it too. And share your comments, share any questions too, please put it in the chat below, and Audrey or myself will gladly answer you, as our heart is to add value to you. So Audrey, thank you very much for joining us on this program here. And we do look forward for all that you're going to share with us today. But before we get into talking about those things, would you like to add anything to what I said about you so that we can get to know you a little bit more?
Great. Thank you, Shanti, for creating this opportunity for me to be here on this platform with you today. Yes, you spoke a lot about my professional background, but I want to say that one of the things that I love being is a mother. I'm a mother of 3, and I am even more excited of being a grandmother. I'm a grandmother of 2 wonderful kids. My granddaughter is 13 and my grandson is 8 years old. I am a pickleball fan. I love playing pickleball. Now I know people ask, what's pickleball? Well, I always tell them pickleball is kin to tennis, cousin to tennis, but it's the older cousin. And so pickleball is one of the ways that I really find enjoyable. And I go out and I play pickleball about 3 times a week. And so that is one of the things that I am known for, because I really, really love pickleball.
When I saw that, I was like, what is this pickleball story? So
it's a fun game.
To show us what this is about.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I'm glad. And by you just saying that, and I'm thinking 3 days per week and doing something fun. How many of us, and that's the question was going through my mind, how many of us actually take time out to do some fun things during the week than just working? Right? And you're talking about burnout, you're talking about balancing work life and not just family too, but your personal life, and how those kind of things actually is good for your mental health.
Absolutely. That's a good observation, because, it's difficult sometimes to balance work, life, when you have a family you're raising and maybe kids that you have to drop here, pick up here, be at their sports. Sometimes it's difficult. I've had that journey where I did not do anything but work. And that's the reason why I wrote this book, because at the end of it, I experienced burnout like you would never imagine. And what burnout is, it's where you, as a nurse, you become so disconnected from what you're doing in terms of the empathy is not there for your patients. You're still serving them, you're giving them their medicine, but that joy that you once had in nursing, it disappears. You're just going to work. That passion that you had for nursing has been gone. You're exhausted, you're tired, you're fatigued. But because, of course, you have to go to work and, whether to make the money or to just, keep active or to support a family, you continue going. And then you start normalizing it because you keep working this way and thinking it is okay that I don't feel well, I don't feel like my best, but I still have to be here because I care for my patients. And so you don't want to step away because you're thinking that would be selfish if you were to do that because you're working short of staff, you're a team player, but you're not caring for yourself. So we're going to discuss more about that, but that is exactly what I've been through early in my nursing career. Not very early, but I would say at the 15-year mark. I've been a nurse for 32 years. So the 15-year mark, I started to experience that burnout. And I worked through that because I did not really step away until, a couple of years later.
Yeah, I can imagine that will be an interesting story to hear.
Yeah.
Especially how you would have overcome it because, many people, not only I would say in the nursing, section, there are that kind of career. There are people also in other areas that are pushing and maybe not also taking care of themselves and understand the importance. And some of us, if you interact with a lot of older people, you will see how much regrets they have in not taking care of themselves when they were younger. And that then you don't see it, but then later down in your life, things start happening and then might be too late.
Of course. And that's one of the things I talk about how you care for yourself. As I like to say, the moment we're born, we start aging. As you mentioned, the older people, right? When people meet to the age of 60 and beyond, and I am at that age of 60 and beyond already.
You don't
they started to, well, thank you. They started to, experience certain conditions that they would not have experienced earlier. But if you would have lived this healthier life and do things like exercise, make sleep a priority, eat right, manage your mental health, manage stress, and you do those things as you get into the older part of your life, you're able to be more resilient when things come because you would have already started practicing those things. Not that it's too late when you get older, because as I say, as a mindful leader practitioner, I said, every day is a new day and every day is a day to begin a new journey. So it's never too late, but there's so much benefit in starting earlier than later. So that's the way I look at it.
I definitely agree with that. So let's talk about the importance of self-care for nurses. And as I said, yes, we're talking about nurses, but you can also, some of these things can also apply to any one of us.
Right. Well, we all know that nursing is a stressful but rewarding career. We care for patients. We don't care for patients that are just well and, to maintain their well-being. Most of our care for patients who are sick, people who are sick, who need help. We care in areas where people may not have good outcome, even though we might have done our best. And you could imagine being a nurse and you would have done your best and the patient still did not make it. And so oftentimes nurses fail to practice self-care because they're busy caring for their patients, or the same attitude they have at home, they're caring for their loved ones. And so for me, I'm going to share my journey. I became a nurse because it was my dream to becoming a nurse. And I remember from the age of 8 years old, that I helped this blind man cross the very busy intersection. Now, I'm from Guyana, so I could tell you exactly where it was because many of you might be able to relate. I was attending Lodge Government High School and we would go home for lunch. And so I looked ahead and I saw this blind man it was the left side of the road and he was trying to cross onto the right side and there was there were cars, donkey carts and bicycles and he stood there waiting to cross. And I was on the opposite side, on the right-hand side. And I looked that he was waiting to cross and he had his stick and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go over and help him cross the road. And so I walked on the other side. And when I got on that other side, to my surprise, he had one arm and he had the stick in the other arm that was okay. And he kind of reached out his arm that was not good for me to get it so that I can guide him across. Because I said, could I help you? And he did his arm like this. And I'm looking there like, oh my gosh, this stump, am I going to touch it? But I did. And I guided him as he held the stick in the other hand, and I guide him across the other side. What happened in the meantime, my sister runs home and tell my mom that I stopped to help this man because she was scared. And when I got home, my mom said, oh, that's okay. Because as kids, we were kind of told, that there were certain things we shouldn't do. And that was like, like blind people, we were kind of scared of blind people. I don't know for what reason. I was about 8 then. And then furthermore, this guy had just a stump of an arm. So you could imagine my sister, she's scared that something is going to happen. But that was a time that I think was a defining moment in my life because when I helped that man, I felt so happy that I made a difference for him. And so I think that was the seed that was planted because after high school, I applied to go into nursing program and I was at Georgetown Hospital and was accepted, but my dad did not send me because they had this information at the bottom saying you have to serve a stint national service. And my dad said, not my child, not my daughter. Back then national service had a not so good reputation. And I could understand my dad, but I didn't understand the reason because I was like, I want to be a nurse. I was going to go and do that 6-week stint national service, but my dad forbid me. And so I went into my second love, which was a teacher. And so I went into teaching, went to Lillian Jewell College, and I taught for 5 years. And so the opportunity came that I came to America and I had the opportunity to become a nurse. And that was like following my dream. The moment that opportunity came to me, I was like, this is what I want to do. And so I did it. And so fast forward, being a nurse, loving what I do, I found myself feeling overwhelmed and burnt out because I was caring young kids, had a husband, and my husband had a business that I had to help him run, not just one, but 2 businesses, car care and real estate. So, I was so busy doing all of that. And then I remember this Friday night going to work. I work at night. I work at nights on weekends because you want to be able to be there for the kids. This Friday night going to work, I was feeling so overwhelmed and exhausted. As a matter of fact, I wanted to turn around, but I kept on going. And that night at work, while I took great care of my patients and did everything I needed to do, I realized I had lost my joy for nursing. My joy for nursing was gone. I was burnt out. And that morning, when I clocked out, I said, I have to step away to make self-care a priority. Now, what I was feeling didn't happen that Friday night because I had normalized it for many years. I was feeling that way, but somehow it came to a point that Friday night that I said, no more. And so I stepped away to take care of myself. So once I stepped away to take care of myself, I found a coach who I worked with, And I must say, during that time, I also reconnected with my faith and make self-care a priority. And so a combination of those three things gave me the help to reconnect that joy that I needed to get back into nursing. So Shanti, you see, when I got back into nursing after taking a year off, my colleagues, they were experiencing the same thing I had experienced a year ago, and they were working through it. And so I started to support them and coach them and talk to them about self-care, talk to them about taking a break, talk to them about on their days off, that it shouldn't be where they just have to sleep, but on the day off, they have to do things that energize them, do things that makes them happy. And so I was talking to them about that. It's not in a business form, but just as a person wanting to help my colleagues because I saw what they were going through. And I would say that was the birth of turning that experience into making it into a coaching business. And that was part of my journey getting where I am today.
That's interesting. And I
Yes.
love that you
Quite a
started
bit.
talking about passion and your dreams, because indeed sometimes we have this experience per se. You go into and we're talking about nurses, and it also plays out, as I said, in other organizations. But sometimes you go to the hospital and you're expecting that you're not well, or whoever you might be taking is not well, and you're expecting that the nurses, because those are the first people that you would be interacting with before the doctors, and the reception is not one of a caring kind of mentality that you would expect, and you have a different experience per se. And so this here now gets into your mind that these people, look how they're treating you, right? And they're supposed to be people who care, right? But they're supposed to be people who are patient. They're people who are supposed to be able to understand that you're not well, and not to give you more harassment or whatever. But you have that kind of experience that you're going on, and sometimes for me, I think back. Do people look at what they're passionate about before they get into also their work, right? So that okay, I love doing this here. And when we love what we do, it doesn't feels like work, right? And yes, now the other aspect is what we're talking about today, is that you love it so much that you forgot about yourself, right? And so, but why I'm going there is that you talk, it's your passion. And, when we love what we do, we will do it to the best that we can. Nobody needs to tell us, be nice, just smile. So, whatever this person is going through in front of you, that how can you maybe help them through it, right? Because this is your passion. This is what you love to do, right? And from there on, okay, coming into the aspect of, okay, am I taking care of myself too through all of this? Because how am I treating myself, right? Because if you're not treating, and this is my opinion, yourself, seeing yourself as important, then how are you seeing other people as important too? And sometimes that burnout gets onto the other persons too, that you're supposed to be taking care of, right? And and so instead of you doing good for them, you end up doing harm per se in the way that you might treat them. So what are your thoughts?
You made so many important points. One of the things is that the observation of seeing nurses that are not showing that empathy and compassion that we know nurses should be showing. And I want to suggest to you some of the reason might be because they are so burnout, and because they are burnout, they're not caring for themselves, and therefore they're cynical now about what they're doing. Very low energy, not caring, just doing it because they don't want to step away. And because in their mind, they said, okay, I'm called to be a nurse. But in terms of their purpose and passion, they're totally disconnected from that. And so that's one of the things I help nurses to reconnect with their passion and their purpose. And to make self-care a priority without having to leave their job or leave their career like I did, and to enjoy days off. Because some of these very nurses on their day off, all they could do is sleep, especially those, I was a night nurse for years, on their days off, they're just sleeping. They can't be present for the things that really matters, like their family, doing stuff with them. So when a nurse is able to care for themselves, they're able to care better for the patients. They have longevity in their career. The hospitals get better review. And that's one of the things. That's one of the things. I am so sorry. That's one of the things that I talk about to nurse managers and nurse leaders, that if you invest in your nurses and invest in their self-care, they in return will invest in being the best nurse, invest in patients' outcome. Because we all want patients to get better and to leave the hospital. We all want to see the patients thrive and not just, survive. We want to see that they get healthier. So when nurses feel valued by their administrators, their organization investing with them, they definitely will do a better job. It's such a cause and effect because, like I said, nurses, nurses care. I mean, they get into the career. For the majority of nurses, they care. And for some nurses think it's even a calling. For me, I think it's a calling. It doesn't have to be a calling. It could just be a career that you love, but you have to have compassion because, young people don't see jobs as calling, like older nurses. But regardless, you have to have compassion in this career, in this field of work. So if hospitals and managers invest in their nurses, invest in their self-care and their development, you will see the difference in patient care. It will show. And I've proved it because I've worked where I worked in the aspect of supporting caregivers, and it was a total different arrangement and engagement with each other on the team, plus the patients. I've seen the results.
If I may ask you, Audrey, you talk about, don't sleep only on your day off or whatever. But other than playing pickleball, what do you do for fun?
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that you asked. Guess what? I am now a piano player. And so I picked that hobby up about a year ago. And I practice piano every day. I've always had a grand piano because my kids, since they were little, I had them playing piano. So the instructor would come at home, or sometimes they went to the studio and learned to play, and then they practice at home. So I've always had a piano in the home, but I always looked at it as a beautiful thing for my kids and never thought about learning. Until a year ago, I was like, okay, I need to pick a hobby up. And I started playing piano and I love it so much. I play every day. My teacher comes on Monday between 11 and 11:30. We practice on Monday. And she never has to ask me, like if I have to travel, I said, put me in detention. I didn't do any practice this because I travel, like I'm traveling next week. But otherwise, I am at that piano at least 30 minutes every day, at least. It brings me joy because I'm learning something new. And I could actually feel, I tell my kids, they laugh at me. I said, I actually feel those new neurons in my brain connecting and growing. And, they talk about neuroplasty. It's real. And I'm like, yes, this is really happening because I've had to learn some chords that when she initially showed me, I'm like, no, I'm never going to learn that. I'm not going to learn that. We might as well skip it. She said, no, you're going to learn it. And within a couple of days, I'm like perfecting it. So once again, it's never too late to learn something new. And that is part of self-care. And, I'm glad you asked what else I do during the day. One of the things, I don't want people to think that self-care is something out there, like having massage. Now, I love massage, and that's okay. Facials, love facial, that's okay. Going to a spa, beautiful. Self-care is an activity of daily living. And at this point, I'm going to say a big credit to my friend, Dr. Latoro Grant. She coined that term, self-care is an activity of daily living. And why she did that? Because we know as nurses, we talk about activities of daily living for patients, right? Things that they can groom themselves, they can brush their teeth, they can toilet, those basic things, right? Those are basic things that people do, right? So for nurses, she said self-care should be an activity of daily living. We should be doing self-care every day. And what it is, some of the things: exercise, prioritizing sleep, setting boundaries. Oh my gosh, that's a big one. That would take a whole different show for us to talk about setting boundaries. But that's how you create self-care for yourself. And drinking water, like I said, exercising, maybe I'm repeating it, but rest, taking a break, meditation. For me, I meditate. That's another thing I do. I'm a mindful meditation practitioner. And Thursday morning, I lead a group of ladies and men from all over the world from 6 to 6:30 in meditation, mindfulness meditation. So all those things are things you can do for self-care. Now, I'm not saying that you have to meditate, but I find it as a great tool to help me. And for people that do it, they talk about it as a great tool to help them to manage stress and to help them get centered in a day and to create balance and to be present, because that's what mindfulness is being present on purpose. Oftentimes we do things without thinking. As I say, the opposite of mindfulness is mindlessness. Not really. The opposite of mindfulness is automatic. We do a lot of things automatic. You'd be surprised how many times we walk a certain way and we miss to see some flowers, or we miss seeing something that's beautiful, that if we were to be intentional and say, wow, let me just take in my surrounding and see some of the beautiful things. So yeah, so doing, a combination of those, a few, they have some that are really, really foundational, but doing some of those things every day is what self-care looks like.
Yep. So if I may ask you to maybe just share top 2 insights from your book that our nurses can also benefit from. And yes, it's good for you to go. I'll ask Audrey to put her book link, in our comment box so that you can also check it out and how it can also help you. But I'll just ask her to share maybe top 2 insights from the book that can benefit you also.
Right. So my book that is called Top 10 Mistakes Overwhelmed Nurses Make. The reason I wrote this book is because I went through burnout, and the things that I learned when I went through and how I recovered, I wanted to share with everyone. And I must say, first and foremost, my book is dedicated to all nurses who work through COVID, the COVID pandemic, because it was not easy. It was difficult. And one of the things that I really was touched, I was at a round table with some nurses, and as they shared their stories, what they experienced during pandemic, there was not a dry eye. And this is a year after, this was a few months ago, we had this meeting, this round table. And as they were sharing their story, there was not a dry eye. And so I realized, even though the pandemic is gone and now we see that the COVID is kind of coming back a few, not a few, but quite a few infections are out there. There was nothing like what happened between 20 and 22 for nurses who were working at the front line. And I myself go through some moments of guilt when I think that I was not there. I spent 20 years in the hospital, but in the past 12 years, I've been working outside of the hospital, supporting patients in chronic care management, and also nurses who are going through overwhelm and burnout. So the reason I wrote this book was to support nurses. Two of the top things that I want to mention about the book is the first chapter. And the first chapter is about why nurses make the mistakes of not taking a break. And I know for many hospitals, they're working short of staff. They are very busy. They are experiencing downsizing of staff too. And so that could bring causes where nurses don't take a break. It might be so busy, but I want nurses to rethink the whole idea of taking a break. I remember not being able to take sometimes, even before when not COVID, just sometimes you're very busy. You might have a patient coming from the ER, one coming from the OR, you have to send a patient somewhere, and you don't get to take a break, right? But that 30 or 45 minutes break you were assigned to. But I want to talk about those breaks, like 5 minutes break. That's the break I'm talking about. Those 5 minutes when you could just step away from the floor or from your unit and just go to a place and do some deep breathing and exercise. Deep breathing exercises. That helps to calm your body, relax your brain, and it actually gives you a sense of centered and balanced to go back and to continue your work. And you'll be surprised how when you go back on the floor, even though it may still be busy, there is calmness within you. It's like you're finding that calm within that chaos. So you can take a 5 minutes break, and there's a lot of apps out there like Alarmly, there's break time, some apps out there that you can use to remind you to take a break maybe every 2 hours. And just to gather your thoughts and gather yourself together. You could maybe take a break and maybe just connect quickly with a friend, not just to gossip, but just to connect with a friend and say, you know what, I've been thinking about you. I'm at work and I'm thinking about you. That's special. And that connection, that social connection, and that exchange of thoughts and well wishes, and it gives you a good feeling. So taking a break is very important. And another one I would say would be sleep. Sleep is something, like I said, I was a night nurse for many years. Sleep is something that we need to realize how important it is for our body and our minds. Because if we don't get enough sleep, right, the next day we're not able to function at our best. We lack creativity, we lack critical thinking the way we would if we were to get a full night's rest. And what is a full night rest? For everyone, it's different, right? I don't believe people can function on like 4 hours sleep. You know, for me, it's between 6.5 to 8 hours. It depends, right? 6.5 to 8 hours of sleep. For me, my sweet spot is really 7, it's right in the middle. And so when you get sleep, it gives your body time to repair itself, build your immune system. It helps you with focus and concentration. And so it's important that we make sleep very important in our lives, and also prepare before we go to bed, how that we could experience deep and relaxing sleep. And, you know, for nurses, a lot of people may hear about the circadian cycle, that we should be sleeping definitely between the hours of 12 and 2. So it's different when you go to bed 1 and 2 o'clock and thinking you're going to sleep 6 to 8 hours than when you go to bed earlier. Like, let's say for me, it's like 10 o'clock being the latest. And so sleep must be a priority. That's why I say to all my night nurses, I support you. I know it's hard working nights that you don't get a chance to sleep, but on the days when you're off, make sure that you do certain things that you're able to get very good night rest, and, you know, really keep your body refreshed, and, you know, keep your immune system intact. And so, yes, so those would be the 2 top ones, the sleep, and also exercise. I can't say exercise enough. Exercise don't have to be going to the gym, could be something you do at home, get some weights. I do work it at home too. When I don't go and play pickleball, pickleball I consider an exercise and activity. But I exercise at home, even though I have gym membership, I may not be able to get to the gym. But I have my exercise bands. When I'm traveling, they'll go with me, simple bands, because I need to exercise, at least 4 times a week. So I'm going to get those bands and take them with me when I'm traveling. I travel a lot. Or at home, I have weights that I use. YouTube has lots of exercise regime that you could follow. So exercise is important. And for nurses, I want to say this, walking up and down the floor, giving patients medicine is not exercise. It's an activity. It's movement. Okay? If your heart rate is not going up to, depending on your age, 110, 120, 130, 140, you are not exercising. So I know some of my colleagues say, oh, Audrey, I don't have time to exercise. Oh, running up and down these floors. No, that's an activity and that's movement. It's not exercise. Okay, I'm done.
No,
but yes, in terms
one.
of my book, I need to put a link in the chat. Oh, I have to get it from Amazon. If you go to, let me see if I can pull it up and put it there.
I will put it in the comment box. Yes. So.
Oh, okay, you can put it in?
Get it to everyone that they'll be able to see it. But Audrey, I must say how much we appreciate that you're sharing, from your personal experience and also to help warn, especially younger nurses or those coming into the career to, even for the older ones that might be there for a long time, that, taking care of your health. And Audrey went through it and know, what it feels like and is to help us. So I do believe in learning from other people's mistakes, right? And then trying to do it yourself and learn from your own mistake. Why not learn from someone else? And so I do appreciate you sharing, some of the things that you've been through, and also for our nurses, because we do want to know that, these the nurses are taking care of our loved ones too, taking care of us, and that they're also seeing value in their lives, that they're taking care of themselves. And that part is important. The leadership aspect too, those who are leading the nurses too, that they understand how to also look into stuff like this, because in the end, yes, we want to have better results, whatever organization, but then you can get that if your people are not taken care of too. And so how are you making it a priority for them to take care of themselves? And so we do appreciate that, you're bringing this to the forefront, and that we are able to identify and understand it's human beings who we're dealing with here, and they need to also take care of themselves. So Audrey, before I close, is there any thing that you would like to add or share before we close our session?
Thank you so much, Shanti, for giving me the opportunity to share on your platform. And I must say, since I connected with you in Panama, I've been following you before, but connecting with you in Panama, and I see where your heart is. Your heart is to really add value to the people in Guyana, to the school children. And so I really, really am hoping that, people who are in the space where they could hear this video, this podcast, that they will definitely support Shanti's endeavors or initiatives to really bring about transformation in Guyana, to really help by instilling within the young people those transformation values, by helping to become better citizens. And it's going to help the entire country. And I want to say thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And this is just one thing that I want to say, not just for nurses, but for anyone, that, in order to become a better person, you have to be able to lead yourself. And that's one of the things that I talk about with nurses and others, that the first thing is leading yourself. And if you cannot provide self-care to yourself, you cannot lead yourself, because you have to, leadership and self-care has a very important intersection, because Leadership is influence, nothing less, nothing more. And unless you're able to influence yourself by being intentional about your self-care, then it begs the question, are you able to lead others? So start leading yourself and providing self-care, being an active participant in self-care. You could live a long and healthy life. Thank you so much.
Yes, Audrey, thank you for that. Indeed, this whole program is about developing our leadership skills, and it always starts with us. And if we are leading ourselves well, and so if we are leading well, then you'll be able to actually have others that want to follow you. But then who wants to follow somebody who doesn't even know to lead them themselves? So just, those are good points to think about. And so, Audrey, thank you so much for joining the program today. As I said in the beginning, those who know anyone that can benefit, as a reminder to them too, that they need to take care of themselves, especially our nurses that are out there serving, wholeheartedly serving so many hours, and being on their feet, and the mental aspect of dealing with some of us too when we're in a different state of mind. The nurses, their patience and their love and their compassion, how do we also ensure that they are taking care of themselves, right? So do we also show your appreciation for, when you go to the hospital, of what they're doing, and be kind to. So I want to leave that with you. Do share this video with anyone that can benefit from it, and share your thoughts too, so that every one of us can also benefit from some insight that you may got that others can also use. So take care and see you in the next session. This is Eats Meets West, and we had Audrey Boyce from the US, also Guyanese, that was shared.
Yes.
Take care, and thank you, Audrey.
Thank you so much.